going to do a light-hearted debate today. Nothing too extreme, but grammar versus vocabulary. So this is a comment I received on a YouTube video that I took part in. And it's basic grammar is a must. I eat rice in English, but I rice eat in Japanese. And this is because on the video, I was saying that we should focus on vocabulary a lot and build up vocabulary and phrases and chunks like that. And then there's always comments that try and contradict you. And they said, yeah, this is true. You know, you do have to get the word order correct. But I said, unless you know words, how far can you really go after knowing that rule? Because it's not too complicated to just swap it. So that it really got me thinking a bit more about the topic, and I decided to put together this presentation. So what do you think? Maybe we can have a show of hands, proverbially, or you can type in the chat box. What do you lean more towards in day-to-day teaching? What's the meaty bit in the middle of your lesson? Is it grammar or vocab? Vocab, a little more grammar. Vocab. Both. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Lots of answers. Okay. Thank you. So, Wilkins, the applied linguist, 1972. Without grammar, little can be conveyed. Fine, let's give grammar its dues. We do need to have some structure, just like with the Japanese, with the subject, object, verb versus the subject, verb, object. It's good to get it right. And Wilkins was concerned with conveying meaning in language, and that grammar should serve that. Why do learners want grammar? Why does anyone want grammar? I think that we can talk about confidence, progress, mastery, and grammar adding nuance, not just accuracy, but precision and fluency. So here's the first of a few little stories that I'll give about myself and my recent trip to Japan. I am able to ask someone in Japanese, can I wait here? Okay, because I wanted to wait somewhere while it was raining and I didn't have an umbrella. So I was going to be polite. And I said, "Koko de matte mo in desu ka?" Which, if you speak Japanese, then that's fine. If you don't, please trust me. It means, can I wait here, please? However, I am aware of the causative in Japanese and how there's a nuance there where you can use a structure to be allowed to do something. So I wanted to ask, now I know it, it's koko de matasete moratte mo in desu ka? Which means, would you kindly allow me to wait here? And I want that because I've heard other people use it. I've heard native speakers use it. And I want to be not just precise and accurate, but I want to give an impression of fluency. And I also want to, if we're being honest about it, show off a little bit. So I think there is a place for learning grammar. And what I did with that is because I recognized that I wanted it. I went back and I used ChatGPT and I got it to give me loads of exercises using that structure. And I'm a little bit better at it now. But it's a tricky thing to know when to use it and how to transform the verbs and things. But I like it and it's fun. So grammar, in that sense, I think this is why learners want it. This is why I want it. No bad thing. So we might know well, we probably know Scott Thornbury is a prolific figure, teacher and teacher trainer, and the co-creator of the dogme method. And the story that he often tells, I will tell again here, probably not quite do it as much justice. But they was teaching the present perfect with Egyptian students and drilling this structure and getting them to repeat it. And it's almost what my colleague of mine called Howard Smith likes to call display language, which, it's fine. It has its place, these grammar drills, getting it right. I have seen the pyramids. I have been to Europe. I haven't been to North or South America or whatever it might be. They finished the drills and I think they largely got it correct. And then they were talking about something else, about an Egyptian singer, and this piqued the interest of the Egyptian students, and they wanted to genuinely ask a question for communicative purposes to Scott. And he said, "Did you hear her, teacher?" When it would have been a perfect opportunity to say, "Have you heard her?" So, what can we learn from that? Well, I think it's okay if they haven't acquired it and using it in a communicative setting yet. But maybe it points out the limitations of drilling structures in the classroom. And I want to ask the question there, did the student achieve the message they wanted to communicate? I think so. I think so. And did you hear her? I think as we're in the classroom, you'd probably correct it, especially if you've just been focusing on it. But if not, maybe you could just say, yes, I really like her songs. Which one do you like? And communication can be achieved. So then we get to grammar boxes in a course book. And here we are. I have to firstly say that this is from Navigate, Upper Intermediate Course Book. And you might think I'm a little bit biased towards vocabulary teaching, but I'm not getting at Navigate as a course book. I like it, I use it a lot, and I think it has some really useful stuff in it. But I just wanted to give an example of grammar focus box. Grammar focus boxes, I think, can sometimes cause lessons to grind to a halt. If you've been doing speaking tasks and skills work and people are engaged, even if example sentences are contextualized, as soon as you start using meta language and get learners to talk about it, what we might call guided discovery, I think that we run the risk of, and this is another one of Scott Thornbury's quotes, I'm paraphrasing, rules can become the end goal rather than a means. So one suggestion I have, if anybody is interested, is that you can turn these kind of guided discovery things into a bit of a test teach test thing. So skip the box, do the control practice task that comes after, see how well learners get on with it, and then maybe you can do your clarification in a slightly different way, or they can fill in the box as it was, but it gives you it's a bit more diagnostic. Yeah. So some food for thought there regarding grammar focus boxes. Yeah, I see grammar more as a tool, and you can use it to manipulate what you already know, and you can use it to manipulate the new language you know. I wouldn't say that should be a primary focus. It's just me. And again, talking about a tool for things like appropriacy and nuance and formality, then we can get there as we progress in language learning journey. Not always step by step. So, for example, that causative in Japanese, I wasn't really too worried about that before I got quite a bit better. Okay, so this is another story from me in Japan. I have to thank my girlfriend for this actually, because we went to quite a remote village, and some of Japan is still a bit remote. And we joined in with a festival there, and there were lots of little kids, and they were so well behaved and so eager and made friends with us. And she said you should volunteer and give them some English lessons. So I thought, what am I going to do? I can't I can't really teach them about English in English. I've got to give them something that they can understand and that they can repeat and possibly use at some point. But there's maybe not an immediate opportunity for that. But I decided on, I mean, you can read it anyway, but 12 daily routine phrases. And I'll give you a couple of them. Maybe use the chat box again, keep this a bit interactive. A couple of them were I get up, I eat breakfast, I brush my teeth, I go to school. And they repeated it back to me. And before you worry that they don't have any idea what it means, it was accompanied with appropriate actions, which I was doing, and later on I was getting them to do, like eating. So they knew what it meant, and they were repeating, and with remarkably good pronunciation actually, because I don't think they were inhibited about just copying. But what do we think? Here's the question: is it grammar or vocabulary that I was teaching them? What about that in the chat box? If you haven't got there already. Some people are saying hi, which is sweet, and I appreciate that. Hello. Both, yes, both, agreeing with the person above. Both. I suppose it's both, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, or you could say it's functional language for describing your daily routine, but I think you can take it as when I'm talking about vocabulary in this session, I'm also talking about functional language to an extent because chunks as well. We can keep if it's a set of chunks that perform a certain function, like talking about a daily routine. So yes, I think that is the line blurs. But what I didn't do, and what you could probably understand would be not useful, is tell them that it's all in the present simple, and that we form it with a subject and then the verb, maybe in the S form if we need it. And I didn't do that, and we didn't go over the negative. I think they really enjoyed it, as a by the way, and so did I. So, what about phrase books? What do we think about phrase books? I like phrase books, and I have used phrase books, and I continue to use phrase books. Here's what I've got here. I've got phrase books are ready-made chunks for immediate use. For example, where is the station? How much is this? What beautiful weather? And I think we can get pretty far with vocabulary and chunks alone. And I've experienced using them. I don't know if you guys have experienced using phrase books, but I like them. I like the translation, and I have a go, and then and go to not necessarily holding it, I try and memorize it, and then I say, where is or can I use your bathroom? And it works, and I think that's good. It gives us a sense of achievement. It's a little victory on our language learning journey, and we can remember them. The situation that we use them in will probably create a strong memory, and then we got that phrase. So I think phrase books are good. You should still use them. So Michael Lewis and the lexical approach. This takes it a bit further, and we're thinking about language is grammaticalized lexis, and learners generalizing chunks into new forms. So I think the idea here is, and the idea that I like to, certainly when I'm teaching one-to-one, I try and do this. I try and give learners the language they want when they want it, and give them quite a lot of phrases and collocations, things like that. So we've got rain, you can have heavy rain and light rain. And if we got decision, we can have make a decision, these things. And then there's a lot of that that comes up, and it can be quite idiomatic. It can be semi-fixed expressions, fixed expressions. And a lot of that, and learning it, and it gets internalized, and then grammar comes out of that. Okay, here we have another big figure in our industry, Jane Willis, talking about tending to your garden. So this is with reference to task-based learning, which I think fits in here in a sense, because language learning is more like helping a garden grow rather than a brick by brick additive process, as we see in some of the course books, which are quite, you might do on day one, you've got present simple in affirmative and negative. Day two, you've got it in the question form. It's quite brick by brick in how it's presenting these grammar structures. Task-based learning obviously gives them a task to do, and then they use the language they know, and then after you can teach them some structures. Okay, so here's the big reveal. The Wilkins quote was actually only half. Without grammar, little can be conveyed. Without lexis, nothing can be conveyed. So I tried to make my own little amusing example to demonstrate this. This is the learner. I won't do any kind of accent to risk offending anyone. Coffee, one, yes. Milk, thanks, you. Where's this person? What do they want? Again, it comes back to communicative achievement. They weren't able to say, would it be possible to get a coffee with some hot milk on the side? I appreciate that. But they got their message across. And they can keep building, I think. Yeah, so Wilkins, yes, he said grammar primarily about language. It's primarily about conveying meaning. Grammar should serve that. Okay, so this is what I think. So we've done a bit of about the theory, and in the classroom, what can we do? And I think we can be a bit more responsive to learners rather than prescriptive. So not always with something to teach, but a bit like Thornbury and Meddings with the dogme method, we can respond to learners with what they need, because learners are asking, how do you say this in English? And they might do it in their own language, or they might do it to their neighbor, or they might do it to you in English. They manage. And you can give it to them in a chunk, and you can drill it. And substitution tables are a good method here as well. So a couple of examples of that. If a learner's trying to say they wanted to continue the activity, you say, okay, you can carry on. Give them that. Carry on working, carry on talking, carry on trying. What are we doing there? We've got the verb ing on the end. It's a pattern for that phrasal verb, and we can drill it. So my another story from Japan was with the little children. After we finished, something quite remarkable happened. So we finished the lesson, and these two little girls, they wanted to ask me some questions in English. So I think they asked a different adult, not me, and they worked out how to say, um, what do you like? They got that structure. And and then what they were doing is they were asking me a different noun each time. And they'd have a little meeting with each other. You know, little children do. And then they were doing like one, two, three. What film do you like? And I had to answer. I say, Harry Potter. And then, what color do you like? And I had to answer, green. And this it went on for about for about 7 or 8 questions. And I thought it was wonderful because they're doing a substitution table of sorts. They're not worried about uh, that question form in terms of, you know, it starts with a question, it's present simple question form. They're just drilling it. And I was responding. So I thought we can probably do something like that in our classes with the learners. And how am I doing for time?
You've got about 4 minutes left, Dan.
We'll have to talk about the next bit because it's Andrew's bit.
If you need an extra 2 minutes, you can have it.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to talk about translation because I like translation. And in the first edition of Outcomes coursebook, which is Andrew Walkley's coursebook, there is activity where you translate some sentences all in the same structure. And the one we've got here is the needs plus the ing form. So we've got it here, and I think it encourages noticing and autonomy. And in all honesty, I think it's a quick method. It's quick and it's very clear because I remember having a French lesson when I was at university, and we were doing one of those tenses that French has, and I had a lot of explanation about what it meant and how to use it in French. And then somebody, might have been the person next to me, translated it for me into English. And then after that, I was like, okay, now I know what all of these mean. So I think it's quicker. And what that does is it leaves us in the classroom with more time. We're not just rushing grammar for the sake of it. And we've got a structure. We've got more time after that. What could we do? We could do control practice tasks if we felt the need, or freer practice tasks, more vocabulary input, other types of games and speaking tasks and pronunciation. All these things that I think drive communication and build fluency. So I like it. The top one, what language is the top one? If anyone knows, you could probably guess because I'm going on about it. It's Japanese, the top one. And the bottom one is Italian. Yeah. Lizzie actually gave me a really interesting way to use this activity for a monolingual class or a multilingual class. You translate all of them into your own language, then you cover the English, and you have to translate them back, saying them out loud to a partner. So the only language that's being heard in the classroom is English, but the language they're looking at on their page is their own language. So I think it helps to reinforce it. The bottom is Italian, so but I'm not going to attempt to do it because my Italian is not up to much. Okay. So we're sort of at the end there of what I wanted to say. I think the grammar and lexis overlap. We can see them overlapping here on this little Venn diagram that I have here. And I suppose my overarching point is, like with the phrase books and like with giving learners what they need when they need it, you can help them. One-to-one, it's easy, but you can also help learners when you're monitoring and then pick out things that might be helpful for the whole class. I think that's it. Teach learners to say things that they want to say and then help them learn how to say more things for themselves. And then I kind of side with Lewis on the grammar focus can come later. I unpack it. But yeah, it's hopefully not too controversial, a lighthearted look at that.